I think birthing ideas with the people you're with is very important. I really do. In this specific instance, it's a very flow state room. Not much happens if you're thinking, is what I will say.
Really?
Yep.
How beautiful is it to be with musicians that can also get to that state, though?
It's stunning. And I learn a lot because often my brain is be doing too much.
When we first started going out on dates, she used to pull up to my house minimum 20 minutes early, maybe 30 minutes early.
So true.
And she would wait outside, but she didn't realize that my cameras could see like down the street, and her car would just be parked outside for like 30 minutes. And she would just wait until it was...
Okay, stop everything you're doing because we've got 2 massive celebrity bombshells to unpack today, and trust me, you are not ready for this roller coaster. On one side, we've got Justin Bieber sparking rumors all over Hollywood with a certain mysterious friendship that's got Hailey Bieber raising eyebrows and maybe even a little jealous. And on the other side, Selena Gomez is facing an emotional storm that could completely derail her big wedding dreams with Benny Blanco. Yep, it's all going down right now and the tea is piping hot. But wait, before you think you know how this story plays out, let me just say, what's happening behind the scenes is way messier than the headlines. And today, we're connecting the dots no one else is talking about. So buckle up, because this isn't your average celebrity gossip. It's the kind of Hollywood drama that makes you question everything. Let's start with Justin. Now, you'd think being married to Hailey would mean his circle is locked down. No surprises, no drama, right? Well, not exactly. Because apparently, Justin has been spending a lot of time with rising star Eddie Benjamin. You know, the Aussie musician everyone in the industry is suddenly obsessed with. And while at first it looked like a simple creative partnership, insiders are whispering something different. This bond between Justin and Eddie? Let's just say it's gotten so close that Hailey can't exactly smile through it anymore. Yep, we're talking jealousy vibes, cryptic posts, and attention that fans are starting to pick up on. And here's the kicker. The deeper you look into Justin and Eddie's connection, the stranger it gets. Did you know Eddie has quietly stepped into a role in Justin's life that used to belong to, well, let's just say someone else who was once very, very close to him? MHM. The parallels are wild, and fans are already asking if history is repeating itself. And the question everyone's whispering right now, where does that leave Hailey? But while the Biebers are juggling their own complicated triangle over in Selena land, things are getting emotional fast. Like tears, breakdowns, and full-on panic kind of emotional. Selena Gomez, who has been living her absolute best life with Benny Blanco, is suddenly dealing with wedding drama that nobody saw coming. From clashing schedules to behind-the-scenes pressure, sources say Selena has been pushed to the edge and even broke down in private over whether this wedding can even happen the way she dreamed it would. And get this, Benny? He's not exactly handling the stress like a fairy tale fiancé. Nope. Word is he's struggling to keep up with Selena's world, her expectations, and the constant spotlight. Some insiders are even saying he can't take it anymore. Which begs the question, are we watching the beginning of Selena's dream wedding? Or the slow unraveling of a love story fans thought was rock solid? Now, here's where things get really interesting. Because believe it or not, these 2 stories aren't happening in separate universes. Oh no. In Hollywood, the timelines always overlap. While Justin's bond with Eddie Benjamin is raising eyebrows, Selena's emotional breakdown is making fans revisit old wounds. People can't help but compare the situations, asking if the ghosts of the past are somehow creeping into the present. And honestly, when you hear the connections, you're going to get chills. So here's what we're about to do. In this video, we're going to break it all down, Justin and Eddie's mysterious friendship, what Hailey really thinks about it, and why this story is blowing up on social media. Then, we'll dive into Selena's wedding drama with Benny, the tearful breakdown that shocked even her closest friends, and why some insiders believe this relationship may already be hanging by a thread. And finally, we'll put the puzzle pieces together and reveal how these 2 scandals might actually be feeding off each other in ways the tabloids haven't caught on to yet. Because you know me, I don't just give you the headlines. We go deeper. We talk about the stuff that everyone's too scared to say out loud. And trust me, when you see the bigger picture, you're going to be asking yourself one thing. Is this just coincidence, or is Hollywood's favorite love triangle rearing its head all over again? Okay, I know what you're thinking. There's no way all of this is connected. But oh my friend, just wait. The late-night studio sessions, the cryptic Instagram posts, the little things Selena said in interviews that suddenly make way too much sense. It's all there. The breadcrumbs have been in front of us the whole time, and now we're finally putting the story together. So grab your popcorn, hit that like button, and stick with me. Because by the end of this video, you'll know the truth about Justin's new bond, Hailey's hidden jealousy, Selena's tearful breakdown, and Benny's breaking point. And I promise you, once you hear it, you'll never look at these relationships the same way again. Let's dive in. Please don't forget to subscribe and like this video. It is free and help us bring you enjoyable content. And of course, watch till the end. Picture this. It's a warm desert night at Coachella. The lights are blinding, the bass thumps through the ground like a second heartbeat, and celebrities are scattered across the VIP section like rare birds in their natural habitat. But all eyes aren't on the stage, they're on Justin Bieber. Not because of his outfit, though yes, it was very Bieber, oversized hoodie, diamond chain casually glittering under the lights. Not because he was making a surprise cameo, though he did. No, fans, bloggers, and even people who didn't know they'd become accidental eyewitnesses noticed something else. Justin wasn't alone. Tucked into a cozy corner of the VIP section, he was openly cuddling up to someone who wasn't Hailey Bieber, his wife. That someone was Eddie Benjamin. Yes, that Eddie Benjamin, the rising Aussie musician who, until recently, was best known as the kid who played bass for Meghan Trainor once, or Maddie Ziegler's artsy boyfriend. But now? Eddie wasn't just in the orbit of superstardom. He was in the middle of it, wrapped up in one of the most talked about celebrity dynamics of the year. And here's the kicker. Hailey was there too. Just a few feet away. Looking, if eyewitnesses are to be believed, visibly uneasy. Is it a bromance? A brotherhood? A collaboration so deep it blurs into something else? Or is it, as some corners of the internet gleefully speculate, an emotional triangle with stakes higher than just tabloid headlines? Whatever it is, this moment wasn't random. It was the public flashpoint of a story years in the making, one that stretches from the clubs of Sydney to the chaos of Hollywood, from teenage dreams to global stages, and from mentorships to maybe controversial bonds. So who is Eddie Benjamin, really? And how did a 14-year-old guitarist from Australia become the person Justin Bieber, one of the most famous men alive, just can't seem to stay away from? Let's rewind. If you want to understand why Eddie Benjamin feels like such a magnetic figure, not just to Justin, but to the music world in general, you've got to start where every great story starts, the beginning. And Eddie's beginning isn't Hollywood. It isn't Coachella. It isn't even America. It's thousands of miles away, on the other side of the world, in Sydney, Australia. For Eddie, music wasn't a hobby. It wasn't even a choice. It was, quite literally, in his DNA. His mother was a dancer, someone who lived and breathed performance, who knew the discipline it took to turn art into livelihood. His father was a touring drummer, the kind of musician who spent nights on stages and days on buses, chasing the heartbeat of rhythm city to city. So when Eddie picked up his first guitar, it wasn't surprising. What was surprising, however, was how quickly he went from fumbling through chords to commanding a stage. By the age of 14, Eddie wasn't just noodling in his bedroom. He was performing live sets in Sydney clubs, places where most teenagers wouldn't even be allowed through the front door. He had that rare combination, technical skill beyond his years, and a kind of fearless stage presence that made audiences lean in. It's the kind of early origin story that always makes people raise an eyebrow. Prodigy maybe? Or just lucky timing? But for Eddie, it wasn't luck. It was grind. Before he was Eddie Benjamin, co-writer of half of Justin Bieber's latest album, he was simply one-third of a high school band called the Hayes Trio. Formed with classmates, the Hayes Trio was scrappy, energetic, and surprisingly good. The kind of group that played local gigs not because they had to, but because they wanted to. They attracted a small but loyal following in Sydney's underground music scene. Not stadiums, not even theaters, but the kinds of clubs where you could smell the beer on the floor and feel the sweat on the walls. And here's the thing. For a teenager, that's where the real education happens. Not in polished studios, but in messy rooms full of strangers who don't owe you their attention. If you can win over that kind of crowd, you can win over anyone. It wasn't long before Eddie started catching bigger eyes. People noticed his talent, not just as a bassist or guitarist, but as a musician with a producer's ear and a songwriter's instinct. Most teenage musicians spend years grinding before they get their first big break. Eddie? He barely had to wait. By his mid-teens, he was already working with names that most up-and-coming artists could only dream of: Meghan Trainor, Shawn Mendes, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yes, Earth, Wind, and Fire. The same legendary funk band your parents, and probably your grandparents, still dance to. How does a kid from Sydney land in rooms with global stars like that? The answer is equal parts talent, hustle, and let's be honest, a little bit of being in the right place at the right time. But Eddie wasn't just a lucky kid who got a break. He proved himself. Again and again. Musicians talk, and the word on Eddie was clear. This wasn't a one-hit wonder kid. He had it. Of course, in music, there's only so far you can go from Sydney. Eventually, if you want to play in the big leagues, you've got to make the jump to LA. And Eddie did. But here's the twist. His move to Los Angeles wasn't just about chasing opportunity. It was tied to a relationship. At the time, Eddie was dating Maddie Ziegler, yes, the dancer from Dance Moms who skyrocketed into fame through Sia's iconic music videos. If you're Maddie Ziegler's boyfriend, you're suddenly in circles you never imagined. Hollywood isn't a city, it's a web. And Maddie introduced Eddie to someone who would change everything: Sia. When most teenagers daydream about moving to Los Angeles, they picture the palm trees, the golden beaches, maybe a run-in with their favorite TikTok star at Arrowhead. But when Eddie Benjamin touched down in LA, it wasn't just to chase music, it was because of love. And not just any love. His girlfriend at the time happened to be none other than Maddie Ziegler, yes, that Maddie. The breakout child star from Dance Moms, the girl who captivated millions twirling in Sia's platinum wig and chandelier, elastic heart, and cheap thrills. To say Maddie had Hollywood connections would be like saying Coachella has a few flower crowns. She was plugged in everywhere. And when Eddie arrived, Maddie brought him straight into her world. For Eddie, dating Maddie meant more than just being someone's boyfriend. It was a ticket into a circle most aspiring artists would have sold their soul to access. The Ziegler-Sia bond was already legendary. Sia didn't just direct Maddie in music videos, she treated her like family. Maddie has often said that Sia became a second mother figure. Someone who guided her career when the chaos of Dance Moms fame could have swallowed her whole. So when Maddie introduced Eddie to Sia, it wasn't a casual, "Oh hey, this is my boyfriend." It was more like an induction. And Sia? She didn't just shake Eddie's hand and move on. She adopted him in her own way. Sia, one of the most enigmatic and eccentric figures in modern pop, has a reputation for taking people under her wing. With Eddie, she went all in. She called him her Australian son. She made sure no shady Hollywood managers could exploit him. She personally oversaw his career moves, introducing him to powerful figures, shielding him from the machine's uglier corners, and helping him find his footing in a city that chews up most newcomers before they've even unpacked. For some people, it was déjà vu. Sia had a pattern she'd taken in other young men before, 3 boys who had just aged out of foster care. For some fans, this painted her as a benevolent protector. For others, it raised uncomfortable comparisons to Hollywood figures with far darker legacies. The debate got ugly. Was Sia an angel shielding young artists from exploitation? Or was the power dynamic a wealthy, eccentric older superstar and a group of teens she took into her home just inherently unsettling? That maternal description is exactly why some fans defend her fiercely. They argue it's no different than a godparent relationship or a mentor who goes the extra mile. And for Eddie, having someone so powerful in his corner wasn't just helpful, it was essential. LA isn't forgiving to outsiders, especially young ones. Still, the whispers never really went away. These mentorships often blur the line between personal and professional. They can be life-changing, but they also spark questions. Who's protecting who? Where do boundaries end? And what happens when the mentee outgrows the mentor? For Eddie, being Sia's Australian son was both a blessing and a curse. It gave him a springboard, but it also tethered his name to hers and the controversies surrounding her. And as we'll see, this wasn't the last time Eddie would be caught in a relationship that blurred lines, sparked debates, and left fans speculating about what was really going on behind closed doors. Even with Sia's shadow looming large, Eddie started carving out his own identity. He was no longer just Maddie's boyfriend or Sia's son. He was a musician, and not just any musician. Critics and industry insiders began noticing his signature sound, emotional yet playful, layered yet minimalist, with bass lines that felt alive and lyrics that carried an intimacy beyond his years. The buzz was growing. The meetings were multiplying. The kid from Sydney was no longer just in LA. He was of LA. But the real turning point? That was still to come. Because in 2022, Eddie wasn't just about to get his big break. He was about to meet someone who would rewrite his entire story. And his name was Justin Bieber. And suddenly, the narrative wasn't just about music. It was about love, loyalty, and where Justin's heart really lived. If all this was just about vibes and Instagram posts, maybe it wouldn't matter. But Eddie and Justin's partnership was rooted in the most intimate thing Bieber has, his music. On Swag, Eddie's fingerprints were everywhere. The bass-driven grooves, the stripped-down melodies, the moments where Justin's voice cracked just enough to feel human, that was Eddie's influence. Music critics even started writing about the Benjamin touch. One reviewer said, "You can feel Bieber's sound maturing, and Eddie Benjamin is the quiet architect behind it." That kind of creative bond isn't casual. It's not, "We hung out and wrote a track." It's, "I trust you to hold my art and, by extension, me." And maybe that's why fans can't let go of the idea that this bromance is something deeper. Because sometimes, music is the most intimate language there is. It didn't take long for stan culture to go into overdrive. Reddit threads dissected every lyric, every outfit, every glance. TikTok edits racked up millions of views. Hashtags like #Jedi started trending. Some fans called it the bromance of the decade. Others pushed bolder theories. Was this a love story hiding in plain sight? Of course, the internet exaggerates. But the energy around Justin and Eddie wasn't the same as his past friendships. This wasn't just boys being boys. It felt different. Here's the thing about being close to Bieber. It can catapult your career or swallow it. For Eddie, the risk was becoming Justin's sidekick. But Eddie didn't stop at co-writing. He pushed his solo work, crafting a sound that was unmistakably his. Think bass-driven pop with a touch of funk, vulnerability laced with swagger. His singles started gaining traction. His performances proved he wasn't just a background player. He had charisma, edge, and that undefinable star quality. Eddie and Justin are just the latest chapter in a long tradition that fascinates and unsettles audiences. So where does this all go? Does Eddie become a global star in his own right? Does Justin continue to pull him closer, musically, personally, maybe both? Does Hailey's role in the triangle evolve, strengthen, or fray? No one knows. And maybe that's why fans can't stop watching. Because in a world where most celebrity friendships feel staged or shallow, Eddie and Justin's bond feels real. Messy maybe, uncomfortable at times, but real. At the end of the day, the image lingers. Coachella night. Justin and Eddie, heads bent together, lost in their own little world. Hailey, just a few feet away. Is it bromance? Brotherhood? Hidden romance? Or simply the kind of friendship most people can't understand unless they've lived inside the pressure cooker of fame? Whatever it is, it's magnetic. And it's changing the course of both of their stories. The real question is, how far will it go? So now it's your turn. Do you see Justin and Eddie as the ultimate creative duo, just two artists feeding off each other's brilliance? Or do you think there's something more, something even they can't quite label yet? Drop your thoughts. Debate it. Share this with a friend who's obsessed with celebrity dynamics. Because whether you call it bromance, business, or something bigger, one thing's for sure, this story is far from over. In another news.
Are you excited for like wedding and stuff?
I am. I couldn't be more excited. It's just, there's so much kind of happening in the moment with, he's working on some projects that he has to wrap up, and we just have things we...
Picture this. You're weeks away from your big day. The dress is perfect, the venue is breathtaking, and your fiancé is, well, let's be honest, running late because he's still tied up with projects. You'd think love conquers all, right? But then your florist delivers white roses instead of blush pink, and suddenly, the whole thing feels like the apocalypse in heels. Now, imagine all of that stress, but on steroids. Because this isn't just any wedding. This is Selena Gomez's wedding. Yes, the pop princess, the Hollywood sweetheart, the woman whose heartbreaks we've all lived through like they were episodes of our own personal Netflix series. And at the center of it all, one man, Benny Blanco, the producer/boyfriend who looks like he's one seating chart away from a full-blown breakdown. So here's the million-dollar question. Is this wedding about eternal love or eternal stress? The internet is still buzzing over one casual, blink and you miss it exchange. Paulina, a friend, interviewer, and unwitting instigator, leaned in with the kind of question every single woman in her 30s dreads. Do you have any advice for women still single in their 30s? Ouch! Direct hit. Selena, poised as ever, brushed it off, but fans caught the flicker of discomfort. Because beneath the sparkle of the engagement ring and the staged photos, something felt off. Why did this one question strike such a nerve? Maybe because Selena herself has carried the label of perpetually single in the tabloids for years. Now that she's in love, the world expects her to wear that relationship like a shiny medal. But real life? Real life is messy. And that's where the cracks start to show. Backhand index pointing right, curious? Just wait until you hear how Selena's quest for the perfect wedding is unraveling friendships faster than you can say, maid of honor. You'd think picking your bridesmaids is the fun part, right? Wrong. For Selena, it's turning into a diplomatic crisis worthy of the United Nations. She's surrounded by Hollywood besties, Taylor Swift, Cara Delevingne, Miley Cyrus, and Jennifer Aniston. But here's the problem. Who do you crown as the maid of honor without creating a tabloid headline that screams Selena snubs Taylor or Miley meltdown? Sources close to the situation whisper that Selena is paralyzed with indecision. She knows every choice is a political statement, and in an industry where friendships are currency, one wrong move could cost her big. And here's the kicker. Insiders say she's even considered scrapping the whole bridesmaid tradition altogether, but then feared it would make her look cold or too diva. Backhand index pointing right, and if you think the bridesmaids are stressing her out, wait until you hear about the guest list, a glitter bomb of A-list celebrities that's giving the wedding planners daily panic attacks. Let's play a game. Imagine throwing a backyard barbecue. Now imagine inviting Taylor Swift, Travis Scott, Jennifer Aniston, Steve Martin, and... oh, just for fun, Meryl Streep. That's not a party. That's an Oscar ceremony with better lighting. Selena's Montecito wedding is shaping up to be the most star-studded event of the year, but with that level of stardom comes chaos. Security concerns, dietary restrictions, does anyone even know what Meryl eats, and egos so big they need their own valet service. And yet, Selena insists on micromanaging every detail. Where will Taylor sit? Hint, not next to Travis Scott, unless you want tabloid fodder. Will Miley behave? History suggests probably not. What happens if Jennifer Aniston shows up in white? Because you know she could pull it off. It's the kind of guest list that could turn legendary or legendary disaster. Backhand index pointing right, but the real drama isn't in the seating chart. It's in Selena's obsession with chasing perfection. And that's where things get messy, really messy. One day the flowers are roses, the next peonies. Then she scraps both ideas entirely and demands wildflowers, but arranged like they're not arranged. Her team is exhausted. Planners are whispering about burnout. One insider even said, she wants magic, but she keeps ripping up the script. Selena's perfectionism, once her superpower in music and film, is backfiring in wedding planning. Every detail feels like a reflection of her worth, and she's terrified of getting it wrong. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Is this about creating a fairy tale wedding or controlling the uncontrollable? Backhand index pointing right, and if you think the perfectionism is bad, wait until you hear how Benny Blanco is handling all of this. Spoiler, not well. 1. Perfection is a myth. The flowers will wilt. The playlist will glitch. Uncle Bob will dance like a malfunctioning robot. And that's okay. The perfect wedding doesn't exist, but the perfect moment might sneak up when you least expect it. 2. People over details. Selena is stuck in the bridesmaid dilemma because she doesn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But the truth? The relationships matter way more than the optics. Who's standing beside you is about love, not headlines. 3. Control isn't happiness. Selena keeps ripping up the plans because she wants magic. But magic rarely comes from micromanaging. It comes from letting go. That applies to weddings, careers, even relationships. 4. Your wedding isn't your worth. Celebrities like Selena feel the pressure to make their wedding reflect their success. But at the end of the day, it's not about proving anything. It's about celebrating love, even if the cake is lopsided. Backhand index pointing right, so what does this all mean for Selena's big day? Is it doomed for chaos, or is there still a chance it will turn into the fairy tale she's chasing? The date is set, September in Montecito, California. A dreamy coastal venue, picture-perfect sunsets, and hopefully, a bride and groom who can breathe for 5 minutes without someone asking about centerpieces. Everyone's watching. Hollywood A-listers will descend in designer gowns, paparazzi will camp outside the gates, and fans will refresh Instagram like it's their full-time job. The stakes are high. Too high, maybe? Because when the world expects perfection, reality rarely measures up. And yet, maybe that's the beauty of it. Weddings are supposed to be messy, unpredictable, and human. And if there's one thing Selena has always embodied, it's humanity in the middle of chaos. Backhand index pointing right, which brings us to the bigger question. Is this wedding about love or about proving something to the world? At its core, Selena's wedding isn't just about her and Benny. It's about the story she's telling herself and the story the world is demanding from her. Is she chasing a happily ever after? Or is she chasing the picture of what happily ever after is supposed to look like? Psychologists call this the arrival fallacy, the belief that once you reach a milestone, like getting married, happiness will automatically follow. But the truth? Happiness comes from the day-to-day moments, not the Instagram highlights. And maybe, just maybe, Selena's real challenge isn't picking the flowers or the bridesmaids. It's learning to let go of the script and trust that love itself is enough. It all circles back to that casual question. Helena, how are you? I'm good. How are you? At the end of the day, weddings aren't about perfection. They're about two people asking each other, day after day, how are you, and meaning it. Selena's wedding may be chaotic. It may be legendary. It may be both. But the real magic will come if she and Benny can look at each other, past the flowers and the guest list and the stress, and still say, I'm good. How are you? Now it's your turn. What do you think? Is Selena chasing happiness or chasing control? Have you ever planned an event that spiraled into chaos? Share your stories below, because if Selena Gomez can't plan a stress-free wedding, the rest of us deserve a little grace too.